Hey everybody, this is Talkative Carl. Back again for some more spoiler reviews. I just want to uh, let you guys know. Yes, I am redoing the Spider-Man Far From Home spoiler review. In this video, I took down the older one because I personally all day. I just did not feel confident in that video, given the fact that I wasn't in the headspace for it because I was just exhausted, but I just felt like I just had to put it out there, but I did not took the time to, at the very least, put in some precautionary measures or wait another day to at least put in some precautionary measures to keep myself up and alert for the video, or at the very least wait for another day when I'm well rested before I post a review. So I want to, I'm not going to let it drag on for too long, but I want to make sure I hit the beats. So sorry for those who already seen the video, that those who are the few people that have seen it, luckily didn't reach too big of a because if it hit a certain amount of views, then I probably wouldn't have touched it. But this is a nice little redo. It's you haven't gone that far. But speaking of, don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff to Talkative Carl on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. And hit that like button, that'd be greatly appreciated. Share it around, and follow me on the various links in the description. So, here we go. This, of course, minor spoilers to a movie that came out for at least the past couple of years ago, the events of Endgame. Spider-Man Far From Home was pretty much the epilogue to the Infinity Saga. So it's brilliantly open with just a fan high school made little memoriam. Once again, spoiler alerts. This is a spoiler review, mind you. And eventually we'll get to Infinity War and Endgame. Gonna be a while, but eventually we will. I probably want to at least cover the other MCU movies before I get to Infinity War and Endgame. So because it feels unnatural to watch Infinity War and Endgame, even if I've seen all the previous movies, it still feels naked in a way if I don't go through them properly. Well, maybe in rough order, because I already covered Homecoming, and I'm covering Far From Home. You can check out my Homecoming spoiler review on the channel as well. So it opens with a memorial with Cap, Black Widow, Vision, and Tony, who all at least half of them are actually legit dead, with Widow and Tony. And of course they don't know that Cap is just old now and he's just retired, and Vision's a robot. He can easily be rebuilt especially after what of course WandaVision didn't come out at this time, but at the time we knew, even at the time we knew that he's a robot, he can easily be rebuilt, but a synthetic robot to be specifically, but he can easily be rebuilt and come back anytime he wants. But they don't know that. So they cover, and some people complain about how when they cover what happened, they call it the blip. I'm not calling it no fucking blip. It's a fucking snap. But people tell me they don't know that, they wasn't there, but whatever. But when they covered in a comedic way, which some people kind of felt they kind of made light of a very dire situation, but they covered a dramatic moment of the event in WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier just fine. But uh, of course, you see like in a POV of other people, because you already saw little tidbits at the end of Infinity War when people start disappearing randomly, and you see that in a high school basketball game when you see kids freaking out as most of the at least half of the school is disappearing before each other's eyes. And then for 5 years, people who managed to stay grew up 5 years, while like those who disappeared came back at the same age. And of course, Peter Parker and his inner circle, at May, Ned, MJ, I think Happy stayed. Yeah, Happy did stay. But of course, Peter Parker and his inner circle, managed to disappear so they can, when they come back, they all at the same age. And of course, Flash Thompson too. So when when everybody came back, Aunt May or MILF May or Hot Aunt May or Tamissa Toe May. I don't know why nobody ever came up with that last one. That just right off the top of my head. I just came up with that just off the top of my head. Hot Aunt May. Mr. Toe May. Anyway, because Mr. Toe May is so freaking hot. But she came back, and she came back in her own apartment, but it was leased by somebody else now who are living there, and everybody freaking out because like when people just blip at this, and people are concerned like, how did people who might have been on like a plane or a boat or whatever, and they blip back in the same position as they were when they left? Like, you're dealing with Professor Hulk. You would think he'll be smart enough to snap people back into existence in a safe area, so that way they don't be just dropping from the sky as they being brought back if they was on a plane. So I mean, like, you gotta allow some, like, you can't allow your mind to go that freaking dark with it, because like it makes sense that someone that smart will take that in consideration. So everybody blipped back into existence. So kind of like in the video game, how May has this like homeless shelter kind of thing called Feast. In this, she's running an organization to like a relief effort to help those who's been displaced. I was looking for the D word. Displaced at the events of the snap, because people who own a home or an apartment or whomever is now homeless, and they need to find a place, because like just like in the events of Falcon and Winter Soldier with like Falcon, like he's trying to, because he, prior to the snap, he and his military fund and everything like that, he was helping his sister, keeping their family business up and running and whatsoever. But when him disappeared, and she was like pretty much on her own for 5 years, and now he's back. It's still causing issues with trying to get a loan, and it's throwing everything into a whole all discombobulated now, because people are generally empathetic to like these tragic events that they want to help, but it's like in the events of Falcon Winter Soldier at the last episode, it's like when Falcon was telling the senator, like, do better, Senator. You have to like there are people out in the world who have to help these other 50% of the population to find new homes, because like they can't kick out the previous tenant, the current tenants now, because like they've been there for 5 years, and for all intents and purposes, they were dead. They didn't know it was coming back, or at least they didn't know the Avengers was found like a little way to bring everybody back. Uh, uh, the rest of the world had to move on, and I didn't bring this up because I didn't start my on-camera reviews at that time. I didn't do any on-camera stuff in general at the time during WandaVision when that was airing. I gotta mention, because the bad guy in there, slight spoilers, but kind of like a side bad guy, just like kind of feels like out of the blue kind of military bad guy, who is or was the boss of Monica Rambeau, and like, cause she is the daughter of Captain Marvel's best friend, but she disappeared, and when she came back, halfway through the season, they got a little argument in front of everybody. It was very unprofessional of him, but he brought up a point that I kind of understand his point of view, even though he's like, he did it in the most ass way possible. But he mentions to her now that she want to do like some kind of like half-cocked kind of scheme. Those, kind of shows and movies where like, the person who knows what's really going on is going rogue from the, military kind of thing. It's like I know what's best. Let's go rogue kind of situation. But the military dude, forgot his name, but he mentions that you don't know what was, because he want to weaponize Vision essentially. Just in case another Thanos threat comes by, we need to make sure we can like nip it in the bud before that ever happens again. And he mentions like, you don't know what was like these past 5 years. You all were dead. The rest of us have to press on and mourn. And it's like, he said it in a more asshole way, but that's the general gist what he's coming across. And like, I kind of understand. It's like, they don't know what it was like. They were dead. The rest were not. And it's like, it's becoming like I'm glad there's ramifications that even now in Phase 4 are still being felt. Even when like it's even touched on in Shang-Chi and like Falcon Winter Soldier and not in Loki, but you still feel like remnants of this. It's like, and you see like in the Hawkeye series, when you see like people like scribbling Thanos was right on toilet seats, and you get like terrorist groups, it's like there's like some serious ramifications, and you see like that echoed in Far From Home, where like people's being displaced and everything like that. So it's like it throws everything out of whack, and you might be feeling these effects all through Phase 4, and it probably won't settle until we get into Phase 5 more than likely. And I don't mind that, honestly. That's added storytelling. That's like, just like a lot to mine from that. But now that Tony's dead, people is like asking Spider-Man thousands of questions about like who's gonna be like the leader of Avengers. It's gonna be you. It's gonna be you, because everybody and their mama know that Spider-Man was like working under or at least being tutored in a way by Tony Stark. Now you see like Happy, and obviously it's like a hilarious thing with Happy and obviously like starts some kind of like relationship, but just like in her words, like a summer fling kind of thing. Trying to get her groove back, because I imagine that from their experience, she feel like life is short. I want to have some fun kind of thing. I imagine there's a lot of people who might be feeling that way, given the events, like how even prior to this, everybody already had the notion in mind that life is short. Now it just got even shorter that we don't even know when some alien monster who might have a grudge against the Avengers comes down to Earth and decides to wipe out like a majority of the population on a whim. Uh, so I imagine a lot of people want to like live it up a little bit more, or at least do more dangerous things, or you might even see rise of more villains because people want to like either thrill seekers or like get what they want or do what they feel like they always wanted to do but never got the chance. Now it's like, okay, life is short. I'm gonna take down this building. My boss and this company have been treating me wrong, and I'm gonna like use my weapons or whatever to like show them up, because like I never got a chance to do it before. Now that I'm back from being dusted, I'm gonna like finally stick it to the man kind of situation. So Peter and Aunt May knows the secret identity thing. That's all well and good. I'm glad they just like we're in it. Let's move on. I'm glad they don't let that linger too long with the whole secret identity thing with her. But I imagine that will change after No Way Home comes out, which is in a couple of weeks. I'm so excited. So Happy tells Peter, Nick Fury's been trying to call you. You're going to have to answer the phone because I don't want to answer Nick Fury. Of course, Peter, which is a stark contrast from his state of mind from Homecoming up to this point now, because in my review for Homecoming, he's easily like, ready to go on the next Avengers mention and like, like, let's do this. But now, after everything that transpires since the end of Homecoming and Infinity War and Endgame, now he's like, I need to back the heck off. Like, every once in a while I can do this whole, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man thing, stop muggers, sure. But by and large, I want to take a step back. I want to go on vacation. I need to clear my head. Mostly because he's still grieving from the loss of Tony Stark. It was like another father figure that he lost. We still haven't gone through like Uncle Ben, what he looks like in this universe. And of course, as of today, recently we found out about the animated series, which I'm assuming this is probably going to be just like one season, called Freshman Year, where it shows like Tom Holland's Spider-Man before, like once he got bitten by a radioactive spider, but leading up to the him meeting Tony Stark for the events of Civil War. So like maybe at least the 6 months time frame. So it might be like a short limited series. So he's getting like hounded with all these questions, which I imagine like it's like paparazzi. It's like realistically, it's not like, I mean, it probably used to be back in the day, like 70s, 80s, 90s, when like the paparazzi was always in your face trying to sneak into spots. It's doing like very unscrupulous or at least unsavory tactics just to get questions and like badger you with them and stuff like that, all in your face with the cameras and stuff like that. They don't do it as much because, especially after like things like Britney Spears, after tragically, like with her mental state back in the early 2000s and what transpired with her. She's better now, which I'm glad, and glad she's out of that conservativeship. But back then, even back then, early 2000s, it was still bad. Paparazzi just like, I think ever since then, I think paparazzi got a little bit more mature and better at, keeping a safe distance. And I did not like the fact that they just like, maybe it's just the way it was shot, where it felt like, they was enclosing on him, and he's kind of feeling like trapped and like claustrophobic, so he kind of webbed out of there. And everywhere he goes, because he's supposed to be going on a trip to Italy, he's seeing murals and commercials about documentaries about Tony Stark and everything like that. And I'm pretty sure he either mentions to Happy or somebody that everywhere he goes, he sees Tony Stark. Like, it's kind of literal and figurative, because like he can't get him out of his head, and it doesn't help where every time he goes, there's always murals, because it's like the worlds want to honor the ones who saved their lives, or at least save them in general. You see that with Hawkeye when he's in like the restaurant with his kids, and like they kind of like let him eat for free, because like you don't have to pay here. Even though Clint is like don't want a free meal, you just want to be like just eat like an everyday Joe. But it's like something that huge, people are going to be like extremely grateful, and like of course the whole world's going to be feeling that exact same way, posting murals and all this other stuff. So it's like obviously like it would make sense. And Peter is obviously now more so infatuated with MJ, which I wish there was like a moment where we actually see that moment when we come to realization that it wasn't Liz that had like a thing. Well, you obviously had a thing for Liz, but it feels like a quick switch. And now we in Far From Home, and now it's like he sit down with Ned. It's like, I gotta get like the black, got that little black rose necklace thing representing the Black Dahlia for MJ, because I want to tell her how I feel. And I'm like, okay, we missed the scene here where like maybe he looked at MJ in a different light that we did not get to see, because that kind of to me felt like a quick switch, which I don't know if it was trying to like hurry up to the love interest that he needs to be, and not that whole tit for tat, getting to know that this woman he's like actually feeling. But it's whatever. But yeah, it's something that kind of got to my attention. It's like that. It was kind of, we missed the scene where he's like came to the realization that MJ is like, she gave him some kind of spark there. And obviously she's into him. The fact that, wherever he is see somehow is like somewhere in the corner somewhere, like just unbeknownst to anybody until she says something, which is always funny to me. So Ned, wanted to, going to like Italy for the summer with the class, and, it's like Euro trip essentially, or European vacation. And he wants him and Peter go there like batches, because like European women loves Americans and everything like that. But then he ends up like hooking up with Betty Brant, from the plane ride down to the point where they landed so fast. It's almost funny. Some found it more funnier than me, but like I got the joke. And so he has his plan, and he wants to leave like the suit behind. He didn't bring his Iron Spider suit, which was charging in this like case, and he didn't want to bring his normal Spider-Man suit because he just want to not be Spider-Man. Just he wants to be on vacation. It's like he feels like he's earning, which he kind of does. Like a lot of superheroes will probably feel that way. It's like, okay, we've earned at least a good bare minimum a week's vacation from all this colossal BS after what we had to go through. But of course, even when like he says this, Aunt May just snuck the costume into his suitcase without considering TSA. But even though he said he doesn't want to like do any Spider-Man crap while he's on vacation, he still can't help himself when he see people in danger, as like they're in they landed in Italy, and then this big water monster started attacking, uh, where the Jake Gyllenhaal's character Quentin Beck, Mysterio, comes in and try to stop this water creature, which you later hear from Flash Thompson, who's reading this article, name dropping Quentin Beck, aka Hydro Man, which is the first time I never read. No, scratch that. I read one comic that had Hydro Man in it. I think I still have it in my box full of comics. But the first time I ever known about Hydro Man was Maury Bench was the 90s animated SpiderMan show, where Maury Bench used to be the ex-boyfriend of Mary Jane, and he's like one of those obsessive, it kind of hints at an abusive, but definitely possessive, toxic relationship, which, now I think about it, could easily play. You name drop, Maury Bench. Why don't you finally bring in Maury Bench and have him be like an ex-boyfriend of MJ that kind of grew up a little bit, but he's still like infatuated with her. Kind of like the same way, if you watch my review of The Invisible Man, the 2020 Invisible Man movie, I want to see that applied to Maury Bench in the MCU. If they bring in Hydro Man, I want to see that dynamic, played out in superhero format. Like, you got like a crazy, possessive, obsessive ex-boyfriend who has hydro powers, who could turn himself into water and be anywhere he wants to be. Just like how like the Invisible Man can easily be anywhere he wants to be, which is so clever. Now I'm thinking about it, I really want them to actually pull it off, because that seems like that would make so much sense. That'd be like a great villain, because they played it so well in that movie, where it's like, it's so terrifying, because like when like the camera work where he pans over and you can tell there's somebody there, but you cannot see, and it's just the way it was shot. It's so brilliantly done. And like in the animated show, it was so terrifying to MJ, because she feels like she's like losing her mind, because you can't escape water, because everywhere you go there's a leaky faucet, where she's looking at something that's like leaky faucet and something dripping, and she's terrified and freaking out, and she's running away because she never know where she's gonna bump into this dude. You literally have to go somewhere like a desert just to avoid a possibility of bumping into him, because he cannot survive in like very dry or humid areas. And that's usually how Spider-Man beats Hydro Man. It's like causing him to evaporate at best, or at least contain his water substance, which is going to be hard because any drop can easily fall out. But either evaporate him or try to contain him as much as possible to send him to like a shield prison that contain his essence, so he won't be a danger. But so you get introduced to Mysterio. Spider-Man try to help, but he doesn't have his costume on, so he's using like these Mardi Gras type of mask. I want to say Mardi Gras, but it's like masquerade, and that's the M word I'm looking for. And there's a funny little moment where he's trying to help, like, I have like super strength and I'm really sticky, and then he's trying to like hold up like a tower that was about to collapse, and he keeps bumping his head against the bell, which is so hilarious. So they're in this the teachers got them some like the crappiest looking hotel or motel in this case, because like there's like water leaking on the floor of the lobby and stuff like that. It's like, seriously, it's like you couldn't like have anybody foot the bill for something at least one status above what you just got. You went super cheap with it. You're bringing children to who's going to like a very I won't say prestigious, but like a very high end kind of school. You would think they can afford uh like a decent hotel where it's not leaking from the ceiling. You're looking after these kids. You'll think you put them in better lodgings than this. And the teachers, JB Smoove and I forgot his first name, but Star, his last name is Star, and they were well. JB Smoove wasn't in the first Homecoming movie, but I think it was Mark Starr, something Starr. He was in Homecoming, and it's like he was funny in that one because I guess he was in like good small doses, but in this one they kind of cranked it up to like very National Lampoon level of obnoxious comedy, like this goofball dad like antics. And it's like, it's funny on one level. I'm not gonna say it's not funny, but it's only funny on that one level. But it kept going on and harping on it, which it kind of, I won't say it took me out of it, but it's like it kind of stops the momentum of the movie slightly, especially with JB Smoove, who's being like a science teacher, but always has like a explanation of certain events and being caused by witches. So it's like, it's funny on that one time, but this is one of those moments where like, comedy comes in threes, does not work. So when later that night, when Peter and Ned's about to, get ready for bed, Ned get knocked out by Dart, and Peter meets officially Nick Fury. They've seen each other at the funeral, but as Nick mentions, it didn't feel appropriate to exchange numbers at that time. And this is probably one of the funniest moments in the entire film, where he's trying to lay down, why he needs Peter on this particular mission, and then he keeps getting interrupted by, Miss Grant, and then the teacher, and I think MJ at one point. It's like, and like he can't get a word out in edgewise. He's like getting all these knocks at the door. It's like, if one more person knocks on that door, we'll be attending another funeral. and it was like, oh my God. I remember it got so many laughs in my theater when I heard that. Oh my God, it was so brilliantly timed by Sam Jackson. That was so freaking funny. So he got him suited up, and he's taking him to this hideaway where they officially meets Quentin Beck, who says he's from another Earth, and he came to this Earth, which he names drops Earth 616, which is the main Marvel universe that we all are familiar with, and that's what the MCU is based off of. And he said he was from like Earth 814 or 813, something like that. But I looked it up. It's a world where like Spider-Man UK was from, which, spoiler alert for the Spider-Verse event, but during the whole Empire Morlun situation, who are attacking different spider people and going after spider totems in each different universe to kill and drink their blood to gain sustenance, in a sense, just like any vampire, but more specifically geared towards different spider people. They end up destroying Spider-Man UK's world while trying to deal with him. So, but that's not where he's from. Obviously, because I remember Mysterio from the Spider-Man 90s series. If you ever seen the series growing up, or even like on Disney Plus, definitely check it out. It's worth the watch. He's obviously a huge con man, and he mentioned that these elementals. He mentions that these elementals, earlier in the film, he fought this rock creature, and then you see him fight this water creature. He mentions that these 4 elementals, earth, fire, wind, and water, destroy his earth, including his family. So he came to this earth because that's where they were supposed to be coming next. And the fire creature is the one who like ultimately burned everything down to the ground. So, Nick and Maria Hill asking Peter to team up with Beck in order to stop these creatures from attacking their planet. But Peter wasn't like trying to deal with that, which is kind of placates to the whole great power responsibility thing, where it's like he's shirking his like duties as a hero, which granted he kind of deserves like a moment to himself for at least this one moment, but he can't not be. It's kind of like the whole Godfather thing. Every time I try to get out, they keep pulling me back in, and it's like not that he wants out, he just want a break, and it's like he can't even get that. They dragging him back in, and he mentions like, like call Doctor Strange or Captain Marvel or Thor. It's like none of them are available. Don't invoke Captain Marvel's name, and so it's like I can't do it. Besides, I'm like, where you want me to fight him, I'm nowhere near that. Like my class is here, that's that. So Nick orchestrated that they get like an upgrade to Prague, where the last elemental is supposed to be arriving. And so there's also like a gift he was handed to these pair of glasses belonging to Tony. It was like his last will and testament kind of situation where he, gifted these things to Peter. And it's called Edith, which is an acronym for Even Dead, I'm the Hero, which is a total Tony thing. Like when I first heard that in the theater, I was like, of course he would. It's like of course he would. So it's a remote AI system that gives Peter complete control over these weaponized drones connected to the satellite in space. It's supposed to be like, I guess I guess because in Age of Ultron he wanted like a shield around the world, so that way they don't have to keep doing the superhero thing like day in and day out. They can live normal lives and still be protected. So in a way he has something like that, not like a full piece of armor, but definitely a defense system, and he's trusting this to Peter, his protege, to be responsible enough to handle this kind of thing. And of course he accidentally turned one drone on to target one of these, I forgot the kid's name, this kid who didn't get dusted and managed to grow up, and now he's in the same class as Peter and MJ. He has like a thing for MJ and everything like that. He played, the movie played him as such a like a sniveling little dweeb, and it's like, do you need that to add like an extra layer of drama or like comedic effect? Just like because he's he's gonna rat out Peter for like being in like a bathroom with like some European woman who works for Nick Fury, who's trying to give Peter these stealth suit kind of thing and tell him to get undressed without any consideration that I don't care if they're European, even they would know that it's inappropriate for a grown woman to be allowing or at least ordering a high school kid to get undressed in front of her without any consideration of privacy at the very least. And that's just bizarre. I don't think that's like a cultural difference there. It's like on any level, and no matter where you're from, is so inappropriate and bizarre. Maybe a few tribal areas that's like not like an advanced society. Maybe they're not like prone to that kind of bashfulness, but by and large, most of the world like would not like consider that like a good idea. Of course, Brad, that was the guy's name. Brad saw them. He took a picture, and then like Peter wants that picture, either to delete that picture directly from the phone. And of course, he inadvertently started like a drone to attack, which Peter had to stop. And then you get a little moment where like Flash trying to take the ether glasses, and then Peter accidentally put a little bit too much strength, because he got super strength. He usually have to pull back when he's handling things or people, and he kind of like out of like nervousness or like just like frustration. He like tried to grab the glasses like, but he ended up like putting too much, not too much, but like at least just enough of a strength behind his backhand swing, and end up knocking Flash out, which was like and one kid saw it, was like, did you just punch Flash? No. And then like Edith misunderstood and like decided like, okay, fire. And it's like Peter ended up stopping the drone while people were distracted. It was a funny moment, but it's clearly something that, like, why would Tony leave this to, like, he could have at least put in like some kind of like training wheels protocol in the glasses, which he did for the suit initially, which is, it's like, he can, like, in what sense does that make? A smart man like that would not put in some protocols so there won't be slip-ups like that. This kid. Like, he might accidentally do something. You should put in like a protocol where he can only control one drone or two drones at a time, and then until he learns better, it unlocks more and more and more. Which I imagine, just like the instant kill move in his Iron Spider suit, I imagine the next big major fight, I'm assuming with like Galactus at the end of this next saga, the drones will come back and be another instant kill type of mood in moment, and you see like just like a swarm of these drones propelling from the sky and start attacking someone like Dr. Doom or Annihilus or Galactus, whomever's the major. I'm assuming it's Galactus. It's always gotta be Galactus. Coming down and try to fire all these drones and just at least to distract. I imagine that will come into play, because I did not expect activating instant kill at the end of Endgame to play in a factor. That's why you need to watch all these movies prior to Infinity War and Endgame, especially Endgame, because you hear all these callbacks, and you see all these callbacks, it becomes major payoffs because what they're referencing. They didn't have to say it or anything like that. They can just instant kill. Oh yeah, I know it is. And you get to see instant kill. You don't get to see it in Endgame. You only get to see like a sliver, not Endgame, but like you finally get to see it in Endgame, but you only get like a hint of it in Homecoming. The only thing you see is like his eyes glowing red, but nothing else happens. But in Endgame, you see like all the legs come from the back and start like killing all these aliens left and right in like an awesome fashion. God, it's so hyped, and like drove the crowd nuts. I was like, yes, yes. It's like activate instant kill. Like, and you see all these like I was like, the crowd went wild. Like, instant kill. Oh my god, Endgame is so freaking amazing. That last act, that third act, from the moment when Hulk snapped his fingers up until the moment of the funeral, all that is just cinema to its absolute finest and perfection. That is true cinema to a T. God, everything is like everything you wanted in Hollywood in the good sense of it reflects in this third act to its purest form, and like it's like it just makes you, it reminds you why you love the cinema. Anyway, uh, Peter meets up with Fury again with Beck and everything like that, and then Fury chastises Peter about almost assassinating one of his classmates, telling him you're obviously not ready, and it's like he clearly told you he wasn't ready for this crap in the first place. He didn't want to do it in the first place. You kept dragging him in, and I wish there was some kind of I know John Watts wanted to make that what he wanted to do with that scene, but I kind of wish he would have added something where Peter says I told you I didn't want to do this, kind of thing. It's Peter, well, by the moment of No Way Home, he'll be like a senior in high school. So it's after the events of, all he's been through since Civil War up until this point, you'll think he'll have more, he grew out of that shy phase. Really, not totally, but just show a little bit more of a backbone on him, even though he's obviously Nick Fury's been through the thick of it and the shit of it for many years, and even if he's not going to take any gumption from Peter, who's still by and large wet behind the ears, Peter should be able to say hey man, I told you I didn't want to do this. I wasn't ready. And I just wanted to be on vacation. You kept dragging him into this. So don't jump down my neck for something I clearly, didn't want anything to do with. You could have just handed this stuff to me at a later date when I'm older, or just tell me the instructions, show me the instruction manual or something. Or do not operate because it's connected to drones with weapons. Some kind of warning system, so he wouldn't even be bothered to mess around with certain controls that he's not familiar with. But Quentin sat and talked with them on the roof and trying to give him that pep talk. They both obviously growing closer. Which, fun fact, Jake Gyllenhaal actually tried to audition for the role of Spider-Man. I'm assuming it was Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. But because I think at the time he was pretty young, but he never got the role. It went to Tobey Maguire. I'm pretty sure it was Sam Raimi's version. But lo and behold, and it all circles back. He may not be Peter Parker, but he managed to be in a Spider-Man movie as one of Spider-Man's major villains, which is pretty darn fun because he played this role very well. I love Jake Gyllenhaal's Quentin Beck. Awesome across the board. So next thing, so now they're in Prague. So he's convinced, at least with the help of Fury, his classmates would go to this play, so that way they're far enough away from the battle that's going to ensue, except from MJ and Betty and Ned, who dip off to go see this major party in Prague, that's a festival in Prague that's happening, and the fire monster shows up, and Beck and Spider-Man ends up taking it down. But one of the funniest moments where it's you hear Mysterio's shout out, "For my family!" And it's completely hamming it up, and I love it. It got a kick. I got a kick out of it. That made me laugh so freaking hard. It was "For my family!" Oh my god, that was amazing line delivery. Where he's acting like he's acting, and that takes a level of skill to do that. You just be able to act like you're acting, like you're doing a whole total super hammy dramatic role or some kind of thing. So they stop the fire monster. Peter feels like, okay, uh, the job's done. So him and Beck go to this pub where, of course, Peter had like lemonade or pop or something, while Beck actually has like a alcoholic drink. And Beck is telling Peter like, okay, after he's trying to tell like, Peter like, okay, tell me what you want. Don't tell me what Fury wants from you or Tony wants from you. What do you want? I want to go on my trip. I want to tell this girl I like her. I want to kiss her. And I was like, oh, okay. And it was a moment where it's like this waitress hands Peter this, the eater glasses off the ground after a second ago him saying like how he's responsible. And it's like, God, this does not look good on you. And it's like, and back with this like awesome expression, like, were those literally on the ground just now? And it's like you see this like an awesome scene between these two actors, and Peter comes to at least his initial realization that maybe like Tony didn't gift these eater glasses to me. Maybe he didn't trust me to use them. Maybe he trusted me to know who to pass it on to. Which he ends up like picking Quentin, and it's like obviously that was like a very dumb move on his part. But I also want to keep in mind that he's still grieving, he's frustrated, he's stressed, and he just wants to relax on vacation. And his only goal right now his only concern is talking with this girl he actually has feelings for, and everything else at this moment is secondary to him. And he feels like he earns them to be secondary right now. And I can't fault him for that. And it's like, I feel him. It's like, I don't feel responsible right now. Like he's trying to take a mature stance here. Unlike he was initially in Homecoming. He wants to do the responsible thing. He feels like, okay, I can trust Quentin Beck because he's been through the thick of it. He's been through hardship. He can easily lead the Avengers better than I can, because I just want to be a friendly neighbor with Spider-Man. That is it. I just don't want to deal with any of this big cosmic level crap, especially if it's outside my wheelhouse. Because Spider-Man going up against like a fire creature, that's like as tall as like a average building, it's not something that he normally takes on a day-to-day basis, or at least has the resources to handle it. So he hands the eater glasses to Beck. He leaves feeling confident that he left in those things in the proper hands. Then obviously the ruse is shown. Shocker, he's a bad guy. And then you see this awesome scene where it's like, which I like to use the GIF a lot, where it's like, was that so hard? Like, get this stupid costume off of me. And it's like, half of the bar is like a simulation, and the rest of the people there used to be in Stark's employ, which one of them turns out to be the guy who Obadiah Stane yelled at in the first Iron Man movie, like, Tony Stark built this in a cave with a box of scraps. He's like that guy. It's like, it's funny because Quentin Beck used to work for Tony Stark as well, and he was the tech genius behind the simulation you saw in the beginning of Civil War, where like Tony Stark calls it his simulated therapy or something like that, but you just call it like the simulation Barf. It stands for something, but I can't remember the technical name. And man, it was hilarious where you see like Quentin like off stage just looking all dumbfounded, like, did you just call my... It's kind of like that same expression Blob said in X-Men Origins Wolverine. Like that look he has, like, did he just call me Blob? Did he just call my simulation Barf? It was so funny. And it's like, it was a brilliant move on, Feige or John Watts' part, just to take it all back to Iron Man 1, just seeing all these different Stark employees, every part, like every little random part of the MCU that you kind of gloss over, and they give them like, hey, can you come back for this? It's going to be for a few scenes, but can you come back in this film? Because, like, you can still play this character you was in the previous film, because we need you back. Can you come back? And, like, it's a brilliant move on their part. They didn't really have to do that. And, but I understand some people's issue with that to some extent, where, like, Spider-Man's villains in the MCU just happen to be affiliated or have a grudge against Tony Stark, that they kind of take it out on Spider-Man because he's there. And they can't just make what we know to be Spider-Man villains just Spider-Man villains and have a grudge against Spider-Man and not Iron Man by proxy. And I understand. And I think they're finally veering away from that with No Way Home. But, it could have gone either way and I would have been satisfied personally. But I think what they did was pretty clever, trying to do something different with these villains' origin stories. But I think from this moment forward, they're not going to be trying to, retroactively trying to introduce these classic Spider-Man villains via Tony Stark. This moment forward, I'm pretty sure they're going to start like, okay, there are Spider-Man villains, they're connected to Spider-Man, that is it. So, Mysterio got these glasses, which he always wanted total control over, so he can, like, fake being a hero and, like, at the same time, ruin the legacy of Tony Stark. Because after they're just pretty much ex-employees with, huge grudges against him. Even after he died and he brought people back from the dead, you would think maybe these are the people who still feel grievance with him. It probably would have been more people, I'm imagining. And, some of them probably had a change of heart, considering that Tony helped bring half of the people back from the dead that was killed, 5 years before. But those we see is probably the ones they still can't let go of their anger kind of situation. Because when I first saw this movie, I'm thinking, like, Tony Stark literally brought people back from the dead. You really gonna still, like, hold a grudge against him because he fires you? But Mysterio's definitely holding a grudge. So, remodeling the drones, he now is able to work in, like, holographic projections from them, so they can simulate anything that he once simulated, but with live ammunition. And you see, like, Quentin Beck is, like, obviously, like, just unhinged as Tony claimed him to be, and he's literally have, like, drones, weapons drawn on his partners, who's been helping him through all this, because they found out one piece of the technology that projected these monsters is left behind, and now they gotta find it because that's evidence, and he doesn't want, like, evidence against him, otherwise Fury will just snap and kill him. So MG finds it, shows it to Peter after they finally, like, going out to the Eiffel Tower, so Peter can hand her his gift, and then they see, like, the projection, and then of course MJ, like, figured out, like, yeah, you're Spider-Man, and then after that, which is, like, a funny moment when after he's denying it at first, and then that projection goes off, and then that light bulb hits his noggin, and he's like, I made a terrible mistake, and it's like, okay, I'm sorry, man, I think I made a mistake. And then it's like, brilliantly timed by Zendaya. It's like, wow, really? I was only like 65% sure about that. And then they go back so Peter can change so he can track down Quentin Beck. Ned, he lets Ned know that, like, okay, MJ knows too, so you don't have to keep a secret from her. So he goes out to try to find Nick Fury to let him know what happened. He finds him, and he goes to the secret base, but he gets shot up, and then you realize Quentin faked the entire, like, this interaction because he needs to find who Peter knows, who told about the projector thing, and so he can assassinate them as well. You get this awesome scene where it's like, it reminds me of Batman Arkham Asylum with the Scarecrow missions, where he's like hallucinating and everything like that, and it's like awesomely, brilliantly shot. Where Peter's, because Mysterio's by and large like Scarecrow, but without fear toxin, he uses technology to trick the mind, and it's so real to Peter is that he's like completely freaking out of his depth, and he's bumping into stuff, crashing into stuff, and he doesn't know what is, like, okay, is this like a real thing or is it like a disguise? Because he's trying to hit Mysterio, but he end up punching a column of a wall in a building, and it's like, and then as you think Nick Fury came to save the day, and then it turns out like it's another hallucination, or at least hallucination behind a hallucination, like Inception, where he finally gets Peter to like say the names, and then Peter ends up getting hit by one of those bullet trains. He calls Happy, and like, after Happy stitching him up, let him know, like, because he's obviously frustrated, angry with himself, and worried about his friends, and like finally all that emotion that he's been like bottling up since the funeral up until this point, or at least bare minimum the paparazzi in the pretty sure it's still called Feast organization up until this, from the beginning of the movie up until this point, he's just like feeling like, I don't want to be the next Spider-Man, Iron Man. I just want to be a friendly neighbor of Spider-Man. And it's like, I cannot be Tony Stark. I can't live up to that. And Happy just let him know, like, you're not going to be Spider-Man. I mean, you're not going to be Iron Man. You're never going to be Iron Man. You can't live up to Tony's standards. Nobody can, especially not Tony himself. But you got to be your own man. And like, so with some words of encouragement, was like really portrayed by Jon Favreau, who started all this with Iron Man 1, and you see him like a bit of pride on his face when he sees like the back room of the private plane turns into a makeshift mini lab where Peter's making his own costume, a red and black one, based off the Amazing Fantasy #1 costume. It's cool looking in live action, like straight off the page. Then you see Happy looking at him where he's like, just like in Iron Man 1, he's like, which Happy wasn't even there for when and Tony did this, but he dipped his hand into the holograms, that kind of makeshift glove, with the web shooter spring on the palm. And it's like, you see like Happy just like, yeah, that's his boy. Tony will be proud. And so they make their way to London, where the kids are at. And so, Beck is unleashing the combination of, at least what the outside world is seeing, is like a combination of the fire, water, wind, and ground type of elementals. And he's planning on wreaking havoc in London and come in and swoop in to save the day, showing that like I can handle an Avengers level threat, and they'll have to let me join the Avengers. And so like I can, like, he just want to be like the showman. He wants the glory without the substance situation. And I don't even know what will he do if that would have happened. That or to say that people were fooled, this whole entire time, and he defeated like these colossal monsters by himself. When something real happens, like if a celestial come back, for instance, what the hell will he do after most of the stuff is fake? So there's a little flaw behind all that. But Peter ends up stopping him, taking down these drones, and Beck gets caught in the crossfire. And you get to see like Spider-Man actually using his spider sense, or the Peter tingle, as Aunt May like to call it, because at this moment he's not, or at least at the beginning of the film, he's not utilizing that specific skill until he's actually clearing his mind and allowing it that, because it's a passive type of ability, which it always bugs me and a lot of Spider-Man fans throughout the entire introduction of Tom Holland as Spider-Man. The spider sense has always been an automatic passive thing. It's not like the Venom Blast with Miles Morales, or it's kind of like, oh no, it's not even like the camouflage mode for Miles Morales, because he can actually do those on command. The spider sense is by and large a passive ability that just goes off when he's perceiving legit danger immediately. And of course, it's not perfect. It can be fooled by certain technology that kind of triggers the danger sense. I've seen that happen. Or he's around people like that kind of neutralize the spider sense, like Venom, because it was initially was part of Peter Parker. So he kind of neutralized that, so you never know truly who's behind him. It's like like I said, there's ways for the spider sense to be full, but it's a passive trait. It's not automatic. But he utilized it. This is probably like the best utilization of the spider sense I've seen in a Spider-Man film. I see it the first time I saw it in action. I thought it was pretty dope. Was in the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man film when he's dodging Green Goblin's razor bats. But this is taking it to a whole nother level, because the technology has, exceedingly gotten better since Raimi's days. So he stops Mysterio. He gets caught in the crossfire by his drone. And then pretty much the day is safe. And then Peter and MJ share like an awkward high school level kiss, which is kind of cute. Then you get towards the end of the film where it's like he's swinging with MJ, who's freaking out, doesn't want to do it again, but I guess just wanted to try it out. Then on the news everywhere in Times Square, you get to see J.K. Simmons, J. Jonah Jameson, putting up a report like a video, anonymously given to them in the last words of Quentin Beck, who completely blurted out Peter Parker's secret identity, thanks to the guy from Iron Man 1 who was partnering with him. Completely and also it created one of my favorite gifts to this day, where it's like, Spider-Man, it's high school Peter Parker, plastered his face all over the place, and you get to see like the what the fuck, and it's like, that's my favorite meme. By far, that is my favorite meme. That kind of speaks to a lot of my emotions dealing with certain things, or at least because it's my expressing exactly when I first saw Quicksilver show up in spoiler alert, WandaVision, even though it was like a total boner joke. But when I first saw it, I tweeted that and got so many hits and likes and retweets, that very 3 a.m. morning. And because I was like, oh my God, that was like, whoa. It's like, what the fuck? And like, these motherfuckers actually did it. They actually did it. No, they didn't. But at that moment, I was like, my mind was blown. They actually, pulled that trigger. But yeah, that's the end. Spider-Man Far From Home. I just want to make sure that I got this redone properly with me more alert and, can tell my thoughts coherently and like you my best and worst stuff from what I've, after I rewatched the movie. And it still holds up. It's pretty good. A nice epilogue and bookend to the Infinity Saga so we can finally close that chapter completely. Now from the moment of WandaVision / Black Widow moving forward, that's where, well, WandaVision more specifically, that leads us into Phase 4 officially. So yeah, Phase 4 is doing very nicely. Like Loki still is one of the best so far as like Phase 4 moments. But Hawkeye, I can see that creeping up to be number 2. And Shang-Chi is kind of tied for number 3 with Eternals, because like I dig Eternals, but maybe it's hard to say. It's like which one I like more, because I got a little bit more with Eternals, but mostly because a few of those people on the team, like Makari. I love Makari so much, and he's kind of giving me like a need to learn sign language because of her, because like she is so doggone fine. But like Simu Shang-Chi, it's like I like him as Shang-Chi. I like like the love letter of like all the Asian influence that we had experienced for decades on decades. It's like all that seems like there's like give like a little bit hints in here that you will immediately recognize if you ever watched TV ever. And even with certain anime, you get to see like animals that reminds you of Pokemon. It's like, or Dragon Ball Z. It's like not every anime, but you get bits of the major ones that you can tell like they want to show like, hey, we're not forgetting like the anime influence by Japan, Asian influence permeated the culture. Thanks to them, like Jackie Chan, thanks to him, Bruce Lee, thanks to him, like the history of like ancient Chinese warfare, and their impact on society in historical context. In every martial art, and like and it's not goofy or satirized or stereotyped or anything like that. This is like Asian community's Black Panther. I wish they could have done more to like showcase that, but with COVID and everything like that, it kind of like they kind of had to tone it down just a little bit for safety reasons, maybe in some parts in like in the production area, but yeah. And then WandaVision and like Falcon and Winter Soldier, like, and then Black Widow's kind of like, I think Black Widow's probably like slightly the lowest tier, just slightly. It's not like they all are still pretty good, but if I had to put them on a ranking system, those 3 are a little bit lower on the list here, because I think Black Widow is at the very bottom. Just it's like very bottom, then Falcon and Winter Soldier, then WandaVision. Well, I didn't like how the slow start in WandaVision, to be honest with you. But I gotta give it to them, because Catherine Hahn, it was Agatha All Along song that kind of bumps it up too. Like, yeah. So yeah, Black Widow, Falcon Winter Soldier, WandaVision, then like Shang-Chi and Eternals tied. Then you got Hawkeye so far, then Loki's at the tippy top. Because as great as Hawkeye is doing right now, I don't know if it's gonna be better than Loki. Because like, I don't know, man. Loki is like hard to beat. It's so far until Spider-Man No Way Home comes out, Loki is by far like the best. And then Hawkeye so far is at like second best currently right now, to be honest. Anyway, that's my review for Spider-Man Far From Home. Far From Home. Let me know what your thoughts are. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff to Talkative Carl on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. And follow me on my Patreon. That's patreon.com/talkativecarl. Links are in the description. If you want to further support the channel, and if there's any particular review that you want done, whether it's general questions, comics, or TV shows or movies that you want me to check out, that you specifically want me to check out and give my overall thoughts on, check out my Patreon, leave a request, and I will make you a priority and put this on immediately. Stay tuned. I'll be putting up Enter the Spider-Verse review right after this. So look forward to that, and I'll see you guys in a minute. Peace.